Hi, it's Nid here at Spirit Law, your business coach for wellnesspreneurs and creatives, and this week I'm touching on a topic that's been asked about a bit, which is intellectual property. But because it's such a vast subject and encompasses trademarks and branding and patents and software and technology, I'm going to really hone in on what most of you are really concerned about, which is copyright. And in particular, we're going to look at the things that you might be putting up as content, which mostly, and seems currently relevant, are videos. So the first thing that we want to think about when it comes to our videos is, are we doing just the live videos? So if you're doing live classes, say with Zoom, then you might be wanting to play a music soundtrack in the background to really get those vibes going and help support the group. Now, the issue is that music is very complicated in terms of its licensing and the rights that it has, and I am not going to try and explain that to you. But what I'm going to tell you is that music has to be licensed through specific digital software providers. And those service providers are places like Spotify or Amazon or iTunes, are those well-known software platforms where we get that arrangement of choice to enjoy of music. Zoom, which is probably what most of you are using, or Crowdcast, or even doing a Facebook Live, any social media platform, even YouTube Lives, none of those are licensed for music sharing. That means that you're not permitted to be sharing music as part of your classes when you're doing those live classes. So you should not be streaming through Zoom using the share function of your music playlist to your clients. It's okay as a private thing when it's friend to friend, but you as a teacher, a wellness professional, are a commercial business, and therefore you are using it in a commercial way that is available to the public. And this specific right is something that music rights holders are quite specific about being paid for. Think about it like the PRS, PPL licenses that we have to get when we are playing music in the studio. You need to have the same thing for your live online classes to stream through that digital platform. So the best thing that you can do if you want to have a playlist when you're teaching those live classes is to create that playlist, whether it's on a YouTube list or Spotify or whatever other service you'd like to use, and share that playlist with your clients. You can even synchronize at the beginning of class, counting down 3, 2, 1, hit play, and then you're all in tune together for a bar class so that everybody is on that beat together. So that's the first thing with those live classes. When it comes to pre-recorded videos, if you want to put music in the background, you want to be looking for licensed music for that use. Your use can be royalty-free if some providers give you access to royalty-free music. The music that you might get, say, from Audio Jungle or Ben Sound as part of your background of your video, but that obviously you can't then sell on that soundtrack as a separate commercial use to make more money out of the soundtrack. When you include music that has not been licensed, those services such as YouTube will have the right to take that down. And recently they introduced new measures where copyright owners can basically enforce your videos being taken down before it goes through a formalized process where they claim that you have used their music without it being licensed properly. So be aware your videos are subject to being taken down off of those platforms if you haven't got those licenses. The same goes with photographs. So if you're including photographs in your video, you either want to get them from a royalty-free source, say Canva, Adobe Pictures, the Shutterstock, or Upsplash are examples of places where you can pay a subscription or pay to download a certain number of images that you can use because they have given permission for you to include them in a variety of sources. You also want to be making sure that if those photos have got a person's face or very identifiable person, that you need to get an image release. And this is a bit like when we were talking about filming our clients in class. It's a privacy permission that they're giving, and that means that you may need to track down the model who was in the photo to try and make use of their picture. So sometimes it's quite useful, if you can, to avoid those kind of images, or if you can, ask the platform that you're getting the photo from to give you the contact details so that you can get that permission from the person, the model in the picture. Often they will ask you to include a credit of the source and the photographer with the photo. It's important to include credits, and that goes across any of the content that you might be using, whether that's music, photo or poem, because it's something called a moral right, which sits alongside copyright, and this is to protect the integrity and attribution of the person who created that work. And it can be very costly if you don't get the correct attribution. It can sometimes double the amount that they can claim in terms of monetary reward if you fail to get that credit. So make sure you put in the right credit that they request that you do whenever you're using their content. Now, when it comes to copyright, there's no such thing as you're allowed X percentage of content before it's an infringement. The question always comes down to whether or not it's substantial. And there's lots of cases in many different countries that argue over what is substantial. And substantial really is just a question of the case-by-case scenario. So if you're taking something that you feel is a poem maybe, and you're taking, say, the core essence of the poem, that might be one line. It could still be substantial because it's that core essence of the poem and it's identified as being part of that poem. Think about how you might choose to use the poetry or using images in those videos. You will want to be thinking about how it's a part of the education that you're bringing in the video, and is it really necessary for you to use it? Get permission of the copyright owner. So try and track down the poet and get permission from them if you're going to be using it as quite a key part of a practice that maybe you're teaching online. The last thing to talk about is something called the public domain. Now, in copyright law, this has a very specific meaning. It means that something is no longer protected by copyright. And most copyright protections last the life of the author plus a certain amount of years after their death. That means that most things that are current that we want to use, like film footage of the modern day or modern music, is probably protected by copyright law. And that means it's going to need a license. So you're going to need to find the author or who's owning the rights and license it from them in order to use their content. The public domain is not what is online. This is a common misconception, and it's completely and utterly incorrect to assume that just because something is online means that it is in the public domain. This is a falsity. So be aware that just because something's online doesn't mean you can use it. I hope that this video has answered some of your questions, and do get in touch if you've got questions. Best of luck. Remember, just try and do what helps you feel safe and secure so that you can keep shining your light and sharing your gifts with your clients. Thank you.